Right, we are here. We are back for another week. Look at the cool new intro. We'll run it again later on for news, right? Because it's bants. But because there is some news we're going to talk about later on that is relevant for why that is even there. But yeah, we're back, and it is Visions first of all. With a whole new layout. Carlo, how you doing this week?
Good. Yep. So much to talk about. So many things going on.
Yep.
Roller coaster week.
It is, isn't
it? Let's see where we end up.
Definitely. Now then, as always, guys, we will dive back into new articles. Yes, I appreciate the love for the new. That was my weekend's work, as creating the new video. Again, we'll talk about that later on. There is a reason, and we'll run it again for anyone who missed it. There's going to be some hilarious stuff going on with that later on. Don't worry. So the Visions article from this week. What is dead may never die. The Greyjoy article. So let's load up the article. Let's zoom right in just to see the great amount of detail. And okay, is that it? Is that Visions done? Done?
Nothing to talk about here.
Later, guys. No, obviously not. Obviously not. No, as we all know here, all of the stuff was released into
War Council.
War Council. Thank you. I keep getting. Tell you what, Weasel Kingdom, Charles, the guy who he's the great podcast over at Sunday Slaughter, along with of course Chris. He confuses the shit out of me because he keeps calling it War Room, right?
Yeah.
And I get confused.
I thought he was talking about War Room, as in War Room in the chat. That
War
Room was going to have some reveals before everybody else.
Yeah.
He's been known to have a model or two.
Exactly.
So
I was getting really confused, and then he was like, "Oh no, I don't mean War Room." And I think, did he mean War Games ID? Did he mean like the guys with Van and the guys over in Indonesia? I don't know. But no, he's just an idiot, and Weasel just doesn't know what War Council is. It's as simple as that. Right. Anyway. Yeah, exactly. It should be your bad. Feel bad. So let's get rid of this and let's actually look at the Greyjoys. So we have the Ironborn Trappers were the first released thing that we saw. 4 points. I mean, before we even look at them, Carlo, 4-point unit. Good.
4 points says I'm strong. Like, I mean. As long as you don't have cowardly, which spoiler, they don't. Then they're pretty strong. I actually like them because I'm not necessarily sold on archers or them being better.
Okay.
I haven't like really hashed it out, but I think there's situations for one and situations for the other. We'll see. We'll see where the competitive field falls. But I was surprised at their internal balance that they came out at 4 points, and yet I wasn't like, oh shit, they're amazing. Whereas like Poor Fellows, I'm like, holy shit, they're too good. But these guys, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. You don't do a lot, so maybe you can be worth 4 points.
That's fair enough. Yeah, definitely. Let's actually have a look at them now. Let's actually have a look at the stats now, and we see first of all, it's not traps, right? It's not hidden traps like we know from Free Folk Trappers. No. It's this thing called Trappers Tools. So start of any turn, basically, one enemy unit engaged with this unit can get a vulnerable or weaken, both if you gain 2 pillage tokens. That's the pillage mechanic being used on this unit. So there's not really much to talk about with the pillage mechanic here, I think. Ironically, it's just a very simple I generate tokens in combat. It comes with this disrupt, which is not agile. It's I think it's what Grey Wind had. Grey Wind. Yeah, I had to think about that. So you say Grey Worm.
Mickey's brain's melted. I
was gonna say Grey. It's what the Greyjoys had. In the game anymore. Grey Wind, Grey Worm. I don't know. It's going to be Grey Soup next. I don't know. Anyway, so disrupt. Yeah, it's okay.
It's fine. It's a support piece because they're not strong enough to utilize it by themselves. Like they're not scary by themselves with disrupt, you're still just like, yeah, but I still win the combat. I mean, look at you. You're 6+ save with an 8 up morale, and you don't kick out much damage. But yeah,
the attack profile, right? 4+ with a 6/6/3, the 6+ defense, 8 morale. They are wholly worse by basically one stat in every way than current Spearwives, 1.6 Spearwives. But when I saw them, I looked at them and thought, these are the 4.2021 version of Spearwives in my head, right? They offer a support tool, but it's not something you want lots of, but it gives you this support tool. Now, Spearwives do it a very different way. You know, I can talk about Spearwives in depth as to why I use them and what versatility and options they bring. But I feel that these Ironborn Trappers bring and fulfill that similar role, but in a different way.
yeah.
I think they're fine.
Grutaluk says that disrupt is significantly better than agile. I would say not, because agile works against shooting.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important. So I would disagree that disrupt is better than agile. If anything, I think I'd rather have agile, particularly if I'm a good unit. If I'm a good unit, I'd much rather have agile. But obviously, disrupt is the support piece variant of it, because you're helping other units.
Yeah.
It has its place. The unit, yeah, like I say, the unit is fine, and I'm surprised at the fact that I can't decide between them or archers being better. I lean towards archers because of the way that they give out pillage tokens. I think it's an easier support mechanic. But yeah, I think they're a good unit, and I'm so glad that they don't have hidden traps. Like, I really was scared that they were going to have hidden traps, and it was just going to be the same kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly, and then we'd just be back to where we were. So yeah, 100%. Right, move on. So we see Theon the Kinslayer, which is the 2-point attachment. Now, if you're wondering why I've got them in a certain order, by the way, Carlo, and this is for anyone watching as well, this is literally in the order that they are numbered on War Council. So I'm going through them in order. I did the unit first, get out of the way. The rest are all going to be in order. I've put the tactics cards with the relevant commanders to make it more sensible. So anyway, Greyjoy Kinslayer, the 2-point attachment, brings reckless heroism. God, I cannot speak. Long day at work. And swift strike. Reckless heroism, we've seen. It never fills us with joy. You know, this is one of those things. Does this fill me with joy? This does not fill me with joy. They're absolutely fine. Like, he's absolutely fine, but for 2 points, I'm more interested in that swift strike ability. But there's nothing that I can see Greyjoy's really synergizing from that. So I just don't care.
Yeah, absolutely. At the moment, he can't be 1 point. I can't tell you that they're not 2 points worth of abilities, but I don't see a unit that I want to put him in. I'm not like, oh my god, he's great. So he's fine. I don't think that the 6-inch charge is worth taking the wounds myself. Not for having paid for it as well. Like, if you've got it, then sure, use it. But to pay to have that ability is something that I'm not super interested in. And, you know, some people will say, oh, bottom bastard girls. I'm like, yeah, but you're so expensive now. Like, at 2 points, that's a big package to bring that in. So not enough for him to just be like, he's gonna see play.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just too expensive. Like 2 points. I mean, we've only got to look at the game currently. Devon Lannister. Jesus. I was thinking Kevin Lannister. Devon Seaworth.
Mickey. Jesus.
My favorite character being Davos, obviously. Devon Seaworth brought this ability. He brought it with True Loyalist, which for a second ability was basically a complete meme. It had no worth, no value.
He had nobody to go in.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a single unit you'd put him in, really. So the True Loyalist was basically a point sink that you paid for that gave you no benefit. But even then, you didn't see 2-point Devon at all in things because it just wasn't worth it most of the time.
Yeah.
You know,
some people say that they're really looking forward to the 9-point bastard girl combo. I think, yeah, it's fun, but you know, when it really comes to the crutch of it, like that 8-point flayed men unit.
Yeah.
Gonna crush you, right? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you charge me and bounce off. You won't have done that much damage, and then I'll just charge you, and you're screwed. So yeah, I think when you actually look into what a 9-point unit should be bringing now in our new scaling, our new way of like 5 points does this and 8 points does this, your 9-point unit isn't doing enough.
Well, I mean, just to give you guys a reminder, last week we looked at Night's Watch, and a 10-point unit of crossbowmen is essentially a dead enemy unit every turn with 2 actions.
Yeah.
For 9 points, just the BBGs just don't bring them. Which is unfortunate, because I actually don't dislike. I actually like the design of Theon. That's the funny thing. I think it suits him thematically. It just just not going to see play, and that's a shame.
Except thematically, he absolutely should not be going in Bolton Bastard Girls.
Yeah, or like, maybe he should.
Guys, has anybody looked at the story at all?
Anyone
watch the show, read a book, anything? Theon is not supposed to combo with that unit.
No. Although it does make sense. Maybe it's meant to represent him being at the front, being chased by the Bastard Girls.
Yeah. Really gets them to move at maximum 6-inch speed.
Galaxy brain in this one. Right, anyway, moving on. We have his commander ability. We see the 3 tactics cards there: Diversion Tactics, Opportunist, and Stark Exposure, which I'm going to shout out later on and say that there is actually... I do like this. But anyway, he comes with Ambush, which we've already seen. It's the Panicked and Weakened in the flank or rear, and he comes with Enhanced Mobility, the +1 movement, and Pivoting before marching, which is way more powerful than people give credit for. Enhanced Mobility is a fantastic ability. And Ambush is okay. Ambush is good, but Ambush works on cavalry because it's cavalry. Ambush doesn't really work too much. I think is it basically Ambush that dervishes have, and the simple fact of the matter is they just don't use it that often because, well, they don't get the opportunity that often, even with a unit that's moving around a lot. What do you reckon? Just to commander himself.
Yeah, enhanced mobility is the linchpin here. Ambush is cherry on top. I think, it's odd. I've seen a lot of people propose lists. I haven't yet seen a single person propose a list built around Theon, but I don't see him as bad at all. Not on those abilities. So we'll see if he finds a place. Like, I think he could have a place, because mobility is generally the most underrated and yet the most powerful thing in the game.
Definitely. And we'll see that in his cards as well in a second. So we see Opportunist, right? Opportunist is basically, this is like, I'm better than Bolton Cutthroats, right? Before you're rolling attack die, when you make an attack, the usual trigger, if the defender has not activated, you can re-roll any attack dice and gain precision or vicious. If it's Theon, he gets both. I mean, let's just take that for a second. Gaining rerolls is neither here nor there. Right, gaining rerolls is a standard thing that we see a lot of in the game right now. There's lots of tactics cards. We see commanders. Loads of things.
Doesn't require melee, though.
Doesn't require melee.
Doesn't require melee.
Exactly. Doesn't require melee. And more importantly, gaining precision or vicious. Potentially gaining both. I love that.
Big deal.
That's relevant, right? Gaining a keyword is always relevant. Gaining 2 keywords, though, is very good for 1 card. And the reroll on the range attack, essential. I can see Theon Bowman. And I can already see Theon Bowman.
Yeah.
And if you're too close to the enemy, you charge him. Or you can even march, and you can turn around, march further away than they can even catch you.
Absolutely, yeah. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, you can march back as fast as they can march at you.
Yeah, it's relevant. I think this is a great card. I think it's a great card with what Theon brings. I don't think this is a good card on its own, standalone, but this is a building block, right? And he fits with himself. I really like Theon's design in total. And we see Diversion Tactics. Every Free Folk player in the world is currently both crying, but also kind of happy, right? So diversion tactics, after an enemy completes a melee attack, target one other friendly unit in long range of the defender, it performs one maneuver action. Right? They've got rid of this ridiculous stipulation that it had to be a melee attack against somebody who was already activated.
Yeah.
Nuts. There was a stupid stipulation, and I just think it was unnecessary. Now, the problem is, this isn't the first time we've seen a card with the same name say something different. We do not know that the Free Folk card has changed.
Wasn't something mentioned in the Q&A?
Yes. They said that yeah.
Yeah. Didn't they outright say some of the Free Folk have changed?
Some of the
You've
Free Folk
seen
tactics
that, for
cards
example, in Theon's
changed.
card.
They didn't actually say Theon's card, but they did say some of the Free Folk cards have changed, as you may have seen from other visions or something like that. I don't think they specifically said Theon's diversion tactics card. But yes,
Yeah.
I'm 99%.
If they haven't changed it, then what the actual fuck? Like, yeah, I mean, they're just shitting on Free Folk because they can.
Yeah, at that point.
Yeah.
It's a great card. I mean, this card is still weaker. It's still not Watcher on the Wall. It's not an attack. It's still melee, but it's still a good card. Right, melee does happen. You're gonna get this card off. You're gonna be fine. All right then.
Yeah.
Last card then, and this is where I think thematically they've done really well. I think they even mentioned this on the stream as well. Stark Exposure, yeah, which we all know as Winter is Coming. Now,
Different name though.
I'll be brutally honest. I don't know why they didn't just call this Winter is Coming, and given it to Theon, but I appreciate the name they have given it is at least. I mean, they called it a pun, but I actually think it's not really a pun so much as it's just a call out and a shout out. The Theon's like,
wait, the pun because cold and exposure. Is that what goes for a pun around here? Jesus
I think it's because it's Stark and it's basically Winter is Coming. The new version of Winter is Coming. I don't know. It's not exactly a
low bar for the pun.
I know, but I do appreciate the name at least. And I think it's going to be good. I mean, it's Winter is Coming.
The problem there is we're back to this idea of what if they FAQ Winter is Coming?
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, does it? Whereas if they have the same name, then you know that it affects both cards.
Yeah, exactly.
So
having the same name just makes things easier. Having two different names just. Well, we won't go down that rabbit hole again. You've heard me and Karl get angry about that before. Not worth our time. Anyway, so that's Theon. I think Theon as a commander is fine. Really good. Movement
he's
commander.
Fine. Yeah. Yeah, his mobility, some Stark tricks to a faction which is aggressive. I mean, there's a lot of crossover between them and Starks now, I think, because the Starks are looking quite different to what they used to. And I think that Theon leans heavily back into that. He says, you know, he doesn't say completely forget the pillage mechanic or anything like that, but he says, let's bring more Stark to a faction which already looked a lot like Starks. So,
yeah,
I think he could see play.
I completely agree. I think he could see play, and I'll be honest with you, I think he'll be a fine commander. I don't think he'll be amazing, but I think he'll be fine because he has Harmer style play on the board, and if we know anything about Harmer, he's good. He has Rob style play on the board. If you know anything about Rob, he's good. Brings those things. Fine. All right then. Next, we see Karl. Again, this is the order they are in War Council, guys, so I apologise if it seems random. But Karl comes up next, and we see the 1-point variant of him. And this is a combination of the dumbest game mechanic and points costing and limitation rule that we've ever seen, right? It's just...
Well, I mean, I'll tell you, having sat there and written it on Thursday night, it's an absolute bitch of a new way to give a unit a specific combination of things that it can and can't go with. So yeah, it's a bit annoying, but I guess, I mean, it's thematic enough, you know what I mean? Like, if you have Asher, you get to use this variant of him, Considering how similar the two variants of him are, though, I felt like you didn't need to make two variants of him and then tie one to Asher. But
the stupid thing is, you don't even tie this one to Asher.
no,
I mean,
it
Karl.
is and it isn't tied to Asher. It's like
you can just take 1 point Karl whenever you want, and then every now and then you're like, oh, but if I've got Asher in the unit, I can also put Karl in it, which is fine. That makes sense thematically. I guess it makes sense. They're basically, for want of a better term, partners in the Greyjoy system of how it works. The closest thing to it. But yeah, I don't know. I just think it's anyway. We'll get on to the guy himself, expert duelist.
1 point, expert duelist.
Done.
Fine, he's good.
Yeah.
If you got a point, put him in. Like, I'm not like, we'll see where the attachment meta ends up, but I'm not like, oh my god, but I'm also like, that's good. I'm just like, that's good. If you got a point, then spend it on that.
The only problem with Karl, actually, which is going to sound absolutely mental, is I think the best place for him in current Greyjoys is the Reapers to automatically create a vicious panic check with the pillage mechanic obviously adding to the damage. The actual problem with Karl is not that he's not good in Reapers, so much that if you put Karl in Reapers, you don't get a Warsworn in there. And Warsworn are really good for a point in keeping things like Reapers alive. So if you want to double down on the damage healing thing, you can't have Karl and the Reaper and the Warsworn. But I do think Karl just making these Reapers whose entire mechanic is doing damage through panic. You can run into a unit with 2+ armor with a unit of Reapers, and you've got Karl in there. You don't care. This unit's a can opener now because it's attacking the morale. It doesn't give a toss about any hits it generates. Goes straight into the wounding.
Yeah.
Let's go. But as we see, that's fine for a point, kind of. It's not great. It's not great balance, I don't think. It's questionable.
The thing is Karl has a lot of competition, actually. Like, there's a lot of good attachments in here. I mean, Vlad says he should be 0 and attached to and when he's attached to Asher, but like they've shown very clearly that they're not interested in that anymore. Like, even Theon costs a point. Theon Reek. Yes. We've got new Greyjoys. Reek costs a point now. Like, I'm pretty sure they've entirely done away with the concept of 0 point attachments.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll get anything for free anymore, and you're not getting this ability for free. Like, this is way, like, that's at the good end of 1. You can't have it for free. If anything, some people would argue that you should give it a bad other ability and make it 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, we would have seen the backlash of Khal Drogo having it, right? And they kind of the way that, not even the way that games are played, but just the way that people talk around the game and the design of this ability has already been very negative. People have taken very quickly to this being a bad thing. And yes, you could argue hot takes and people not playing games and people saying it's, good, bad, whatever. But the point is, general mass consensus on these things is very rarely drastically wrong. Like, it can be wrong, but it's never like completely wrong end of the spectrum wrong. So, not a couple of loud people.
It's people's perception of the game, whether they're right or wrong. If somebody can go away from a game perceiving that they lost it because their opponent rolled a 3+, then they're going to feel bad about the game.
Yeah.
Like, whether that's the truth or not, if that's how you feel you lost the game because they ran in and killed your commander on a 3+ dice roll, and that's what controlled the outcome of the game. And it could, like, it really could. So many game modes now are dependent on whether or not you can score +1 VP with your commander. And there are plenty of commanders out there whose cards have bigger effects when used on your commander. So really, like, a game could be decided on a 3+ dice roll.
Yeah, certainly that's the way it's perceived, definitely. So we'll have a look at its 2-point attachment version, shall we? It's 2 points, without the limitation now. So, well, not limitation, I should say. He's 2 points without the extra ability of being able to go in Asher's unit. So not so much a limitation, so much as he's lost a bonus and he's gained a point. But what he brings with him for 1 more point is Stalwart. Now, Stalwart for a point.
Obviously, you can see why this wasn't allowed to go into Asher's unit, because Asher can make the unit have a 5+ morale, and then Stalwart makes it a 3+, which in a faction that's not supposed to be a morale-based faction, like, that seems pretty ludicrous. So,
especially if you've got running Commander Asher, you use Rally Point as well, so it would be a 3-point plus bubble. We've seen that before, haven't we, poor fellows? Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But that seems like I don't understand why he needed Stalwart. Like, I don't understand why this 2-point version of him exists. Like, why didn't they just stop at the 1-point version?
I looked it up, right? I looked it up because I wanted to see, for 2 points, do I take Asher and Karl? Or do I take 1 point Karl? Or do I take 2 point Karl? And I looked at the differences. The only units where taking 2 point Karl is, I'm going to use the term better than taking Asher and Karl together, is specifically in the scenario where you have 6 or 5 morale already. The only unit in the entire Greyjoy army that we've seen so far with 6 or better morale, and it is 6 morale, I believe, is the Reapers. That's it. Everyone else is 7 or 8. So it's categorically, currently, better to take the 2 1-point attachments nearly every single time over the 2-point Karl. And I'll be brutally honest, putting a 2-point attachment Karl into Reapers feels bad, because you're paying the point for expert duelist. Like I said, you want to pay that point. I don't think you want to pay 2 extra points to get a unit with 4 morale, particularly. Because it's meant to be a killer unit. It's not supposed to be a unit that's going to hold a token forever, right? So, you know, I'm not sold on the 2-point variant at all. I just don't understand why you'd ever pick this over the other stuff.
No, exactly. I guess the only other thing that you might have is Asher Commander, but you don't want attachment 1-point Karl for whatever reason. But again, we're still in this, like, why not just take the 1-point variant? Karl at 2 points. I mean, overall, he's fine. He might see some play at 2 points. Some people might like him. I think that he will see play at the 1-point variant with or without Asher, and he'll be fine. Like, he's pretty good. Like, like he just is good. Like, they have some good attachments, so we'll see what happens. But the attachments are winners here. Do you know what I mean? Like, these named attachments are winners.
They really are. And this is just Karl. Like, people are talking in chat about lore. Surprisingly enough, Leet Teddy clearly reading his lore, because he does know he's a minor character in the books. He is actually. He is a relatively minor character. He's less minor than the shows make him out to be. He is still relevant, but he's still quite a minor character. Which is a lot to say about a minor character getting this important in terms of abilities. But we'll move on. We'll move on, because it gets a little bit better. And we see 1-point attachment Newt the Barber, who, by the way, like, model-wise, I just think he looks like the picture, the image of him, the lumbering giant he's supposed to be, of a man. It suits. It really suits. He really looks like, you know, full on, like, Wallace and Gromit style. I'm a big lumbering idiot.
Absolutely. He does look like Wallace.
He looks exactly like Wallace. But we'll see him now, and I think that, I mean, this is just straight up nuts for 1 point. I cannot conceive a situation where you take 1 point, or you don't take 1 point Newt the Barber in a Victarion list. It's as simple as that. I think if you're playing Victarion, you should pay the 1 point tax of having Newt, and if you're not paying the 1 point tax for having Newt, then you're probably wrong. It's as simple as that. It's just better. Furious Charge, vulnerable on the charge, motivated by coin. Just a free attack whenever a friendly NCU complains bags, if you want. It didn't get used that often, but it's something your opponent has to play around. And then he comes with this innate ability, innate ability. He basically is Victarion for his cards. What? You just...
This guy is why I'm not losing my mind over Karl, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I could have him instead. Do you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of competition in the 1 point category already for the Greyjoys. It's thematic. He seems an absolute gimme if Victarion is your commander, and he seems incredibly powerful even if he's not. You know, like motivated by coin and furious charge, and neither of them are a 1 point unit, 1 point ability by themselves, but together, like I think they're a great package at 1 point, and then Victarion's Vassal thrown on top. They're just he's good. Like there's no
really good.
Nothing else. You know, Karl is good. They're both good. The Greyjoy's characters are good. like if you stop watching now, Greyjoy characters are good.
Yeah. I actually think all of the named Greyjoy characters are fantastic. What lets Greyjoys down is their unit quality is just not there, as we said before. But we move on, and we move on to... I've got to give him a shout out, right? If he is still here, he probably is lurking around. Euron, otherwise known as War Room in chat here, Euron Greyjoy, he is on the main Discord. He absolutely loves this guy. He has been waiting for the One-Eyed Pirate to come out for so long. And we finally saw Commander Euron Greyjoy. He comes with Cunning Ploy, Devious Methods, Mind Games. Now, let's dive into him before we go into his cards, of course. So Discord. Start of any turn. Target enemy in long range. They suffer a morale test with -1 roll for each of their destroyed ranks. On a failure, they lose all abilities until the end of the round. Fantastic.
Abilities that end a round. That is barely existent anymore. From what we've seen from 2021, unless you know what I mean, like unless they're just going to show us more and more stuff. But you know, that's one of the few things which they've stayed true to. This idea that very hard entire round control is very commander specific, and here it is on Euron, and it's powerful. You know, like -1s stacked onto the test as well. Thankfully, it's an order at least.
And it's also the flip side. It gets better when it's destroyed ranks on the enemy, so it's not just going to completely nuke a unit from full health that you can then hit. It's going to be, you know, you whittle them down a bit, and then you go, now I finish them off. Now is the turn. Now is the round. They're going to die. And he also comes with the Giga Vicious Kicker as well, the -1 morale, +1 wound from panic tests. For 1 point, like, he looks Lannister-based, Lannister-style. Like, we've seen So Discord, I think, in Lannisters, Or we saw So... The ability So Discord. I don't know if that's still going to exist under that ability name for 2021. But feels control-y, feels panic-basedy. Fine. Love it.
Yeah, it's powerful. I think... Particularly if the number of sources, this is the knock-on effect that you have to consider with this. If the number of sources of turning off abilities reduces, then more and more people, and as more good attachments come along, if they're going to improve attachments, more and more people will stack big abilities into units, and you will have viable meta-based lists which have a big unit with lots of abilities. And so your few cases of having control and round-based shutdown will be really, really big and important because they're fewer and further between. The fact that Walder currently exists, that Walder can just shut anybody and everybody off and is available to everybody, except for free folk who have mants to do the same thing. Everybody has access to just switch any massive powerful combo that they don't like off on practically any turn. And that means that people don't field them. But
Yeah.
if you take them away from most people, people will field them again. And then he becomes even more powerful than you think he is in the current state. And that is already pretty powerful.
Yes. So should we dive into his actual cards that this guy brings? Because this is just the commander variant, right? As Bruce likes to point out to me. So we see Devious Methods, card number 1. Start of a friendly turn, discard a tactics card in your hand. If you do, take one card from your opponent's discard pile and add it to your hand. Return it to your opponent's discard pile if it leaves your hand, and replace any commander name on that card with Euron Greyjoy.
The opportunities for this seem near endless. Like, I can't actually place the value of the card until I've seen like an amazing commander card, which I'm like, oh my god, imagine if you stole that and combined it with this. And I think that I'm a tiny bit worried at the corner cases that it's going to create, which are bonkers. But I guess, you've gone for Commander Euron, so maybe you deserve to be able to exploit that corner case. It's not like every Greyjoy army is just doing this combination. It's not a base deck thing. I think it might be really annoying to play against. And there's also some things like, what if your opponent has to like remove a random card from your hand? Like, how do you do that? Like, one of the cards just like totally like could look totally different. It's in your card sleeve. Like, have they considered the physical ramifications for this? Never mind the fact that people probably right now shouldn't be touching each other's cards. But like, there's a tiny bit here which is like, there's a few things which I'm like, interesting idea, but maybe you haven't tested this with certain people. I know people who would freak out if you wanted to touch their stuff. Quite literally.
Yeah.
Literally, you want to touch my card? No. Like, you don't get to hold my you don't touch my models, you don't touch my cards. Some people are like that, and that could cause some problems. Like, let's not forget, it's not always the most socially normal people who play these games. Like, I've met plenty of people like that.
Yeah, we it's not that uncommon for us to deal with people like that on a regular basis, and I think that needs to be taken into account. But I do think there are ways around that, of course. But yeah, I do think there's some horrible interactions that I can already see. I mean, one of the things that came up straight away was like you could steal Endless Horde. Now, before anyone goes crazy in chat, yeah, Endless Horde says friendly destroyed free folk unit. So by definition, you can't just kill an enemy unit and bring that back. But you do get the free kicker of just being able to take horses and deploy a raider unit. So hang on, you deploy one of my raider units that I brought with me? Do I have a spare raider unit that I can put on the board? Can you put a unit on the board that you don't have? These are all questions that we talked about with the free folk spoilers, the impact of not having your own raider units and not having enough to warrant the use of this card. And now we're going to have, like, I'm lucky, I collect free folk already, so when my Greyjoys get here, I'm just going to take free folk units with me, just in case. But that's a ridiculous thing to have this situation arise. In friendly play, I don't think that's a problem. Tournament play, that's a genuine issue. You don't have models, you can't put that unit on the table. You don't have the models. I've got proxy, and proxy's not good enough. It's annoying. It's annoying that there's interactions like that exist. But that's because the innate problem of Endless Horde is an issue, really, not this card. It just exacerbates the problem further. But yeah, it's going to be really good. I heard someone in chat the other day, in a classic 1.6 moment, actually, really. They were playing against Lannisters, and they devious method a counterplot, and paid counterplot to counterplot something else later on, and it was the classic counterplots everywhere. So yeah, I know, right?
Counterplot for everybody. Counterplot for everybody.
So you see new Cunning Ploy as well. Now, Cunning Ploy, when a friendly combat unit activates, that unit cannot perform actions this turn. Instead, one other friendly combat unit performs one maneuver, march, or retreat. It's Euron's unit. Before they perform this action, one enemy in long range becomes vulnerable. This is a stealth nerf to all the Tyrion players out there, which I think is well needed. Tyrion has been... I mean, Carlo, you've played Tyrion, right? He's nuts. Tyrion is straight up nuts.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. The wording's cleared up a lot. This unit cannot perform actions this turn, so that bit's great. There was some people arguing around, like, can a cavalry unit do its free maneuver and then give up its normal action to somebody else to do something else with? Really, the fact that you can't attack, you can't charge, you can't attack are a big deal here. Do you know what I mean? I almost wondered quite a few times they've decided to get rid of this ability to charge, but left in the ability to attack, say in terms of like Relentless or something like that.
Yeah.
And that would have still led to people just like passing it off onto ranged units. You're still going to have your rapid firing crossbows, which is actually what Tyrion mostly currently does, and then has these knights that can sometimes go big where you might not expect them to. I think, yeah, it's been subtly, or not even that subtly, it's been nerfed in the right way. It's still a powerful card. It can still do some things, but it's still good.
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought when you talk about cunning strategies and cunning ploys and things like that, it's not, I mean, surprise attacks, like just like charges on top of charges and like this continuous rolling thing, was never really what cunningness was about on the battlefield. Cunningness was about maneuvering yourself into position to then do those things, not just doing them for free.
Yeah.
So I prefer the design immediately. I think it's just more thematic of what like battlefield tactics should be about. And yeah, I feel it's much, much better. Yeah, good card still. And we see Mind Games as the last card. Now, Euron, I mean, Euron is a control-y guy. We've seen that. He's got a Lannister style, like, well, literally a cunning ploy, Lannister. The other one we saw, I can't even remember the name of it, but the card before where you steal a card is a very Lannister-y type thing. We see Mind Games. Now, if this is not Lannister, just by the title of it, come on.
Yeah.
Start friendly turn, target a tactic zone. The next time that zone is claimed this round, after resolving that zone's effect, the player who did not claim that zone may immediately activate that zone's effect. Now, I'm just going to straight up say this. I absolutely, without a doubt, fucking love this design. Because it is not a card which is like, I get immediate benefit. It's this understanding of it's a skill card, right? We call it before. I said it before with like things like Surrounded and Exposed in the old 1.6 Free Folk. There were other cards like it as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they were very much skill-based cards. The better you are with this card and the deck and the army that you play, the more value you get out of this card. I think this is absolutely superb design, and you know, kudos to whoever designed this because I actually think that this is spot on. It's just brilliant.
I don't see obvious, like, just like it goes on this zone and is amazing. So yeah, so like, but I think that there are certain situations where it could be really, really big. This is a question that has just come to my mind reading the card. What happens if I change the zone's effect?
It's a zone replace effect. So I believe you don't.
And then
actually...
you do the effect of the zone, and I've changed the effect of the zone.
The zone.
So do you also do the changed effect? Because I changed, generally speaking, I changed the actual effect of the zone itself, and then you get to also do the zone. So I feel like you get to do the changed effect too.
Potentially. I think the simple answer is I don't know. If it is that way, this is one of those things that I think is going to have to be FAQ'd, unfortunately. But yeah, so it's a claim zone effect. It's the zones. Yeah, I think
it says after resolving the zone's effect, and that doesn't happen until somebody changes the effect of the zone.
True. I don't know. The simple thing is I don't know, because it specifically says after resolving the zone's effect. And after resolving the zone's effect is after potentially changing the wording on the zone, which is exactly what the replacement says.
Okay, so Euron saying you don't use the replacement effect. Tell me why. You can't just say, no, you don't use the effect. Like, you have to be able to show me a rule. Like, that's how this works. And if you can't show me a rule, then it needs an FAQ.
If you activating the effect again, it should reset to the default effect. That's not true. That isn't true. It shouldn't do that. If you activate something again, you activate it again.
I mean, guys, I only see opinions here. I see nobody giving me any basis in rules.
But the thing is,
and that's where we have problems.
Yeah, that's the issue here.
Everybody has an opinion on the card, but if somebody can't point to a rule and say, well, that therefore means this, then it's not covered.
And it's fine. It's fine if this needs to be FAQ'd. It's fine if this is FAQ, genuinely FAQ, to at least explain that. That's fine. I wouldn't even consider it an errata for this particular thing. I think this is just something they should have cleared up on the card, but it's not something that there's a problem with the card necessarily, is the way it's written. It's just the way that they phrase zone effects and things like that.
Leap Teddy has just given a good counterpoint, which is that it never specifies when a zone replacement ends, so it lasts for the rest of the game, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. But no, so I mean, it isn't true. I'd love to know the answer, but either way, it's really good, and I think this is a skill-based card completely. If it does use the effect of the if this uses the replace zone effect, which I really hope it actually doesn't, this is nuts.
Yeah.
It's also worse, because there are some zones that you won't get any benefit from. Search through your deck and search for an awful card. Great.
Yeah.
Haven't got anything.
It will probably lead to weird interactions, so I hope that it's not. But I just read the card and I thought, what if? And then I couldn't think of any rule that stops me from arguing that point.
But yeah, we'll, if anyone's got any things on the rules, let us know. Anyway, we see...
Euron's good.
Yeah.
We spoke about Theon, and Theon was like, he's good, but I've seen nobody making lists with him. I don't feel like anybody's that excited by Theon. Euron, I think, is a bit more powerful. Control, it's hard to say. Control seems really limited and really powerful in this specific case. His rules seem powerful, but he just seems more exciting and enticing to people. People want to play Euron. I've seen loads of people writing lists and proposing lists and talking about what they want to do with them, and even playing some games with him. So yeah, Euron seems to be more people's taste. I don't necessarily think he's more powerful than Theon, because I still think that maneuverability is incredibly underrated. And when it comes down to it, that's where the game's won or lost.
And Leet saying it can't block a start of round attack, so in all honesty, it's not amazing, just in reference to mind games. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't stop something like that, but that isn't why it should be amazing. I think if it was that, it would just be, well, obviously it's really good. What I like about this is that it's not about stopping those kinds of plays. It's about introducing a thorn in the tempo of somebody else's turn. And that is actually what it's about. It's about throwing out something in there, like it would suggest a mind game. Might not even be that strong, the effect you use it for, but making your opponent make a misplay because they've played around mind games is in itself a opportunity for you to benefit from, because we all know here, everyone knows here, opponent makes a misplay, that's where you win, right? Giving yourself an opportunity.
At its simplest, if you're pretty sure that your opponent wants to take a certain zone, then you get it as well. Like, at the pure basic level, if you're really confident that your opponent really wants a zone, then you also get it. Like, it's good. It's a free zone if you can do that. And if it makes your opponent not take the zone, then that's had effect anyway, because your opponent really wanted it.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, 1 point Euron. So we see 1 point Euron. Now, a load of people have been saying, in reference to Euron, in a minute I'll talk about this properly, but Euron Suicide Squad, which we'll explain in a minute, but Euro SS, I believe they call him, which sounds a bit weird if you think of the Euro SS, because the last time there was something SS based in Europe, it did not go down very well. So not great choice of wording. So anyway, 1 point Euron Greyjoy, the attachment. Strange relics and poison gifts. Strange relics with the unit activating. The unit suffers a wound, and an enemy within long range gains a condition token. simple, straightforward. Spend a wound, gain a condition. This is strictly worse than some of those like panic AoE things that Weeper does, or that Theon can do, or Reek, should I say? But it's
It is long
better
range.
because it's long range and it's any condition, not just panic. Right? It's that combination of things there. It's a fine ability, fine. Yeah, absolutely fine. Second part, I actually don't like, or do like, don't like. Terrible.
I don't like it.
If this unit has pillage, it deploys with 2 pillage tokens. When it performs an action, before resolving the action, it suffers a wound. Now there are things in, like, I mean, Damphir, right? He can be put on this unit and they take a wound, then heal a wound every time they do an action, so it would affect net 0. You just gain 2 pillage tokens for free. And the Euron SS style like system they're going for, the Euron Suicide Squad, is that you deploy, they have him in a unit with a Reaver Captain, you deploy him on the flank where they're fully buffed up already, and they can immediately just jump into combat and do lots of damage. Yeah, fine. Yeah, that's fine.
You cost 2 more points than the unit costs, and you got to deploy, and I don't see it. I don't see it. Like it's a bit of fun design, but I don't think that. I don't see it. I just don't. I don't think that they should be wasting the inherent healing that they have on already killing themselves. They're not that resilient.
No. I do like the idea that this unit is like a combo within the system. Like it is a combination like technique you can use to catch like a range unit off guard, like go and hunt down catapults, scorpions, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I think it's more meme than it is good.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason Jarl didn't appear in every single free folk list.
The worst part about it is that if you put it on the table, if I'm a halfway decent player, then I'm just like, right, that unit's on a ticking time clock. All I got to do is avoid that unit. Like, just make it take actions, make it move, constantly reposition so that it can't charge. Then it has to take a maneuver to get, you know what I mean? Like, it's like every single action, guys. This isn't when it activates, it's when it performs an action, right? You take horses, you're taking a wound. You take swords, you're taking a wound. Like, all I've got to do is make you have to adjust and adjust and adjust and waste a turn here, waste a turn there, and you're suddenly like halfway dead. And then I'm just like, right, cool, and now I'll charge you. And you're just like, you just spent a point to make your unit really easily exploited by your opponent.
Yeah, and if you can nuke this unit by putting it down to like 1 or 2 wounds, and you would have to activate it to do something, and then it might die. Because I don't think you can forego doing an action. Is that right? You can't actually forego doing an action. You have to activate everything, and one of the actions that you like, the action pass is not a viable action.
I think you can pass. Actually, now that is interesting. I think you can pass. You can't not activate. You must activate. But I don't think you have to take an action when you do activate.
The difference is you do a move action, right? And you classify yourself doing as a maneuver, but you move 0 inches and you pivot 0 degrees.
No, I'm pretty sure there's a pass.
You can pass?
There is a pass option.
I'll be interested to check that out. But if there isn't,
you can pass when you're in combat, and you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to maneuver while you're in combat.
That's true. Yeah. No, that must be true then. I don't actually think it is listed under the actions as a possible thing, but it must be something that can. You can, it's clarified. Yeah, it's clarified. Cool.
So I guess that has a little bit. Okay, that maybe makes me hate him a bit less. You're not on such an obvious clock, but still, I still think that he's just your opponent can easily exploit it.
Yeah, it is on page 13 of the rule. Checked it there after being checked. Thanks, guys. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's okay, but I think it's very much Suicide Squad. I think you've got to put this on the table, knowing how to exploit it. And I think this is going to be something that people run, and people who are not very good will put it on the board, and it won't go well for them. And I think people who are good and decent with Greyjoys will run this because they can understand how to exploit it properly, rather than doing it because it's actually a good thing. it's not innately strong.
Sounds like one of those things which people are like, oh, it's just got a high skill cap, which what they actually mean is not that you have to be a good player, you have to be better than your opponent.
Yes.
You have to understand it and your opponent not understand it. And that just means that your opponent doesn't really understand your army properly for you to be able to use it.
Yep, I agree.
That's not really high skill level, that's high skill difference. Those units require you to just be better than your opponent. And well, you could put, if you're just better than your opponent, you could put anything on the board and win. So
I mean, I always go back to Jarl. Jarl, I mean, it's a different thing. I know Strange Relics is different, but I go back to Jarl. Like, Jarl was used in Free Folk, not because Jarl was innately strong, but it gave you an option in deployment and the way that it made your opponent deploy in a certain way. You actually used Jarl to make your opponent deploy in a certain way on the board. And then in the last deployment of the deployment, you deploy Jarl on the board in your own deployment zone, and you go, I've got an extra activation, and you spent a load of time deploying terrain and your units to prevent Jarl having an impact. Lol. You use it as a mind game, rather than actually for being good. So yeah, I don't know. I don't see Euron being massively. I see him being popular, but I don't see him being very good.
But he, considering that I could have Newt, considering I could have Karl, I'll take them instead, please. They're like guaranteed winners.
Yeah.
This guy's like such a gamble and so not better than them, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Moving on then, we see Erick Ironmaker is the only commander we've not seen from the Greyjoys so far. So we move on to Erick Ironmaker. And before we move on, I do want to just quickly read his quote out. It's King Erick, I like the sound of that. Come, say it with me. Erick Anvilbreaker. Erick King. I mean, that is a quote from the books, but it is just an absolutely ridiculous quote to have on a card, I think. I think it's just completely, crazy.
Delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so we'll look at his cards, which have all got some form of iron-related or metal-related thing with them. Fine, I guess. They've gone for something. And his abilities. I really don't know if Erick is good. Okay, so start of any turn.
No.
Target one friendly combat unit in long range. Move one pillage token from that unit to one other friendly unit with pillage in short range of that unit. Okay. It gives us silver and bronze. At the start of the game, target one friendly unit with pillage against a pillage token. Okay, so he's all about manipulating pillage. That's the thing I get here. He starts with an extra pillage token and he manipulates it.
Upgraded unit.
Yeah. So should we see what his cards do?
Yep.
When an enemy is performing a melee attack, after defense dice, spend a pillage. If you do, you block D3 hits. That's still good. That's okay. That's a completely fine card, right? Block D3 hits for a pillage token?
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's no shields like guards against the realms of men.
No, it's not. It's not like...
And you paid a pillage token for it.
You paid a mechanic to get the benefit. I mean, it's not a bad card. The thing is, it's not a bad card. It's just that we've already seen better in a base deck. So that's kind of why it's a bit disappointing. But it is after default rolling defense dice, at least. Okay, move on. Steel's Might. When a friendly unit is performing a melee attack before rolling attack die, classic trigger, remove any number of pillage tokens from the attacker. For each token removed, you choose one. Reroll any attack die. Precision. Vicious. Hang on.
Tiny bit better.
No, can we just backtrack a little bit? Do you remember when Theon had that card, Opportunist, where if your opponent wasn't activated, you got two benefits, rerolling and then one of Precision or Vicious, or both if it was Theon, and it could be done on any attack, not just melee.
Yeah.
This is basically the same
And it was
card.
free. You didn't pay.
You didn't pay anything for it.
You didn't pay 2 pillage tokens to get those abilities.
This is completely fine as like an alternative card. Give the same effect in a different commander, removing that idea that your opponent needs to be unactivated. But the price is quite steep.
Yeah.
And
And yeah, Terra's saying, yeah, of course, you are probably going to be pillage stacked, but what if I'm not? That's the thing. Like, what is? I know it's a bit like, yeah, well, but like, what if I'm not? What if I'm struggling to get pillage tokens? What if I'm playing Targaryens, and there's just not many ranks to be killed? What if?
Mother of Dragons.
What if in this one area, the unit that I want to do this with doesn't have spare pillage tokens? They're on one token and I want to use it defensively, and then I go to attack and I've got no tokens. It seems a high price to pay considering how much work it seems to be. You seem to have to work really hard to get them. And yeah, once you got them, maybe you end up with too many, but I wouldn't want to have to spend them.
I mean, I will say from having played Greyjoys, admittedly, I only played Greyjoys into other Greyjoys. I played mirrors. You do end up with more more pillage tokens than you realistically need, even by round 2 or 3. You need ways to spend them because at the moment there isn't any, unless we look at Eric. But for me, yeah.
Lannister's Euron. What? So now I'm just dying to have these tokens so that I can play a card, which other commanders just got to do it anyway without the tokens.
Yeah.
No, that's not an answer.
Confirmation bias, that is.
Yeah.
The thing is for me, for this one, like, it's completely fine. It's not a bad card. It's just that it's a win more mechanic. And win more mechanics are not good things to want to have all the time. Because it's not even like significant win more. It's like you're doing really well. Look, this will really punish your opponent. It's like, you get some buffs. 2 keywords is good. We said this earlier. 2 keywords is good. But it's not like
Charles, if you're talking about his commander variant, no, it makes 1 at the start of the game. It doesn't make 1 a turn. Right?
Yeah. No, it just makes 1 at the start of the game. Yeah.
At the start of the game, target 1. And it can move 1 a turn.
Yeah. But he doesn't generate any extra pillage token at all. He doesn't increase your generation of pillage token rate. So he spends them, but doesn't. And actually, ironically, you take away the easiest way to generate them, which is, of course, Eric himself as the NCU. So it's a bit. Yeah, I don't know. He's fine. It's just that we then move on to Gold's Allure. This is okay. When a friendly unit is performing a morale test after rolling attack dice, remove a pillage token. If you do, they pass the test. This is fine. This is fine because we know Lannisters exist.
Right, well.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah.
Because Lannisters can make you go, right, it's a -6 test with like 5 extra wounds if you fail, and you could just be like, oh, damn, I failed. Well, I'll just spend a pillage token, and I completely ignored your stacking morale test.
Yeah.
That's
They're
about
all nice cards to have.
Yeah.
They're all cards that other people have without having to pay pillage tokens for.
Yes.
So I feel like he has a nice selection of cards, and they would be really, really 3 powerful cards if he didn't have to pay for them, but feel the price is high. That is, I haven't played Greyjoys myself. I don't know how many pillage tokens you're going to end up lying around all over the place, but the costing, it seems like the things you're paying to get hold of these tokens in the first place, the ways to generate them when the game begins seem really steep and few and far between. So then to start spending them seems a really high price to pay for me.
Yeah. Imagine if Lannisters had a card that could block this card. Would be mad. Yeah, Chris. Counter blocked. Yeah, anyway, Gold's Allure. I mean, the whole package that Eric brings is fine. It's fine. It's just it doesn't.
He's totally mediocre.
Yeah. Compared
He's
to
the
the other
worst of the lot.
commanders. Yeah, that's the thing. I just think the others are better. It's a shame.
Yeah.
And then we get to move on to the most interesting characters we see so far. The attachments were good, but 5-point NCU Balon, and we're going to see another NCU straight after this. He's very similar to what we saw many moons ago, kind of spoiled with one of these big subject to change stamp on it. But redeploy 1 previously destroyed Greyjoy combat unit fully within long range of a friendly deployment edge. Or fully within short range of any flank table edge. It deploys activated and with any pillage tokens it previously had. Two things I don't like about this. First of all, you get to come back on a flank edge, admittedly activated. So this has actually got more of a horde mechanic, guaranteed horde mechanic, than Endless Horde does, ironically. Second of all, I don't like the fact you come on with your pillage tokens, because it's going to be something that you're going to have to actually track. It's something you actually have to track when a unit dies. If you've got Balon, how many pillage tokens did it die with? It seems like a stupid thing to be slightly annoyed by, but the amount of tracking and like table management that we already see on TTS and the way people play the game, there's already things going wrong. People missing things. Hashtag Furioku wears one of my cards. You know, and then we've got loads more attachment cards coming on the board with Night's Watch, with these on-death mechanics that are going to have order tokens on. And it's just like adding more and more and more and more things to have to track. And that's fine. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. You can give me 50, 60, 70 things to track. It doesn't bother me at all. Like Gloomhaven, right? And other things. But the point is that adding more things to track doesn't make the game feel any better for people who already struggle, right? Yeah.
I'm going to be an arsehole about the wording of this card again. In a Greyjoy mirror, can I redeploy your unit?
Yes.
Is it mine or is it yours?
It says previously destroyed. Doesn't specify friendly.
Yeah? Does it belong to me or does it belong to you? Well, if I copy your effect, am I allowed to do that? No, I'm only allowed to copy influence effects with Jack and Agar.
Yeah. You could mind games.
All right. Yeah.
I'll deploy your unit if you deploy mine. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like they could have definitely. I really would have appreciated if they'd have just added the word friendly in there, because they do on Endless Horde, right? It specifically says friendly free folk combat unit.
Yeah.
Or infantry unit. It even specifies infantry unit. The interesting thing here, talk about limiting design space. It says previously destroyed Greyjoy combat unit. It does not say infantry. So if they ever get a war machine, if they ever get boats, that's not going to happen. If they ever get giant squids, it's not going to happen. If they ever get cavalry, monsters, anything like that, this can actually redeploy them.
Yeah.
This suddenly gets really good if you're deploying something like Hurricars again or something. I'm not saying they're going to get Hurricars, but you know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say more about that. It is just a very strong effect innately, but it has a lot of openness to it. Two Balons on the same, different sides redeploy the same Greyjoy unit. I'm guessing not. Can't redeploy the same unit twice, I don't think. Or at least not while it still exists. I don't know. Anyway, let's just move on, shall we? And we see 4-point Wendermere. Now.
This guy. This
guy's legit. Pose is quite nice. I like the fact he's just casually got a crow. Feels like a bit of he feels like a maester when you look at the model and you look at the image there. And this ability is just brilliant. Begins the game with an order token, and at the start of a friendly turn, any friendly turn, start of a friendly turn, you can remove an order token from him, and you get one of two choices. Draw a tactics card and restore 2 wounds to a combat unit, or one friendly combat unit shifts 3 inches. Whenever he claims a zone, you can replace the zone's effect with he gains a token. Now, this is so good.
Yeah.
Because of that second bullet point.
Absolutely. I like his ability. I actually really like the design space of the zone replacement for like a stacking ability, right? Yeah. I think it's a bit of a, it's just a nice cherry on top that they gave him a token to begin with. Really, this is when you take a zone, replace it with this effect, but use it whenever you want. and you've got those two options. I think it's all really powerful stuff. I think it's really brilliant design space, but NCU replacement effects, they lean towards picking 3 NCUs. Like, I don't see the game moving to not a 3 NCU game for all those who said it would. All those who were like, the game's changing. No, it's not. Like, the meta, competitive players will still play in exactly the same way. Fundamentals of the game are still there.
Yep, agreed. I really like Windermere. I think it's really good. I'm going to 100% stack a couple of tokens, 2 or 3 tokens onto Windermere, and then be like, take a turn, boom, 3-inch shift. Take a turn, boom, 3-inch shift. Take a turn, boom, 3-inch shift. I've just moved 9 inches up for basically free after stacking this and like using this ability throughout the game. And let's go. Let's go. Really strong with the redeploy on the flanks, with the Reaver captains and things like that. It synergizes well. That's the other thing I like about this. It just synergizes. It's just a strong ability which enables other things to be good. Great. Absolutely great. And if you want to draw tactics cards and go through your deck because you're low on hand size or want to heal up, you can do it. Walder on a stick, right? I can see Walder, by the way, sorry, not Walder, Cruster. I can see Cruster's design being not too dissimilar to something like this. And I think if Cruster was, I'll be honest with you, if Cruster was 4 points and was this, I think it'd be great. Anyway.
Leet Teddy giving me now. Leet Teddy's on board. Let's find the corner cases. Let's ruin the game. That's what we're here for. What if we mind games? Who gets the token and what can I do with it?
No, because it doesn't say you place. This is the funny thing. It doesn't actually say you place it on friendly Windermere. It just says place one token on Windermere. So if you get that ability as well, you have to replace it with that. No, we'll move on because that's just us being
facetious.
Yeah. That's it. That's it for visions. There are no more visions, no more spoilers. But you might be saying, "There's more. There's more spoilers. There's definitely more things that we've seen that we haven't talked about." But that's what's officially been spoiled in the visions. There has been other news, of course. So. We go over to the news segment
one sec. Before we get into crazy stuff.
Okay, let's go.
Let's have a moment of positivity before, because I am probably gonna lose my shit over the Lannisters. Greyjoys look good. I think that their internal balance looks really good. I was worried about the trappers, and I'm not. I think that they're fine. They fit well. Their characters are strong, and I think that that's really good because we haven't seen attachments dominating the game. They need to be stronger, and they are stronger. They are better. They look really good. Some are maybe a tiny bit better than others, but that they're named characters means that they're not spammed. That they're not like just bringing the same kind of stacking like the wolf. It's not. I don't think it's going to be the wolves effect, which is that when all of them are brought together, you've just created this absolutely unbeatable monstrosity. So I don't think that they're going to ruin the game in that way. I think that still Greyjoy's got a bit better, but I still think that they're going to be lackluster myself. But that bit's really hard to say. But I for example, still can't see Greyjoys playing into even the 3rd of or the 10th of the Night's Watch that we've seen so far. I think that Night's Watch will already just absolutely ruin them myself, or Targaryens, and we've only seen a fraction of those factions so far. We've seen less stuff for them than we have for for Greyjoys and for what Greyjoys will have for the next 6 months. But internally, the Greyjoys seem like in a really great place. I think the list building is interesting enough and good enough and balanced enough that there are plenty of options there. I just don't think they're going to be that viable.
So, before we actually do move on, Charles has actually reminded me, and this is my
I was about to say, what about Victarion? Because
what about Victarion?
He's a big boy.
He is a big boy. So
where do you lose him?
I will double check, make sure this is all set up there. Let's see if he's in there now. There we go, Victarion, big boy. This is probably why I missed him, actually. War Council Do we talk about this now? We do. War Council has him down as a 1-point attachment. Now, he's not a 1-point attachment. I know people have been pointing this out. He is a 3-point attachment. It says so on the card. Just that says 3, not 1. I don't know what's gone wrong there with War Council.
A little bit of code, but it's not like they've had months to check it.
What's actually, I mean, I think if anyone else was to be like, oh, it's just a mistake. And it is, it's just a mistake, right? It is just a mistake. That's all it is. But I think if anyone else was commenting on it, that's where they'd leave it. I mean, I think the thing is for you, Carlo, is you coded all of this into the builder in 3 hours, was it?
The only thing I'd say about it is up until this day, War Council has been like War Council has been spot on. There was the leak, the Benjen leak. Mm-hmm. Things are getting sloppy. Like that's a bad sign. Like for a long time, War Council was Loctite, 100%. Nothing in it was wrong. Yes, it was slow. It didn't get updated as fast as you wanted, but like leaks and incorrect numbers. And I also had loads of people said that like when you tried to add Karl, like the app crashed and stuff like that.
You can't add an attachment before adding the unit to the War Council anymore. It just completely locks up and things like that.
So you know that's the bad sign. Like that says that they've rushed it for whatever reason, or that they've changed who's doing it, or I don't know how it's done. I don't know if it's done internally or externally or what. But yeah, like I'm a bit nervous about War Council being bad because War Council, I've always said, is the best thing that CMON have produced for A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, and I'm we put it down to a mistake and things like that, but. We're not going to pull our punches. We've got to send our punches everywhere. You know what we're like here. We're not just going to let off on one person. It's a mistake. It's a mistake that they've made, and it shouldn't, unless I don't know the structure of their app. It should not take them long to fix that. I'd have hoped that the hot fix would already be done. That would, in theory, that should take minutes to fix. So hopefully that is done. There are other aspects which will take them longer to fix, so that's fine. But this is just a simple fix. They said, you just get 3 hours to put them all on the builder, and then most of that time was making
fucking Karl,
and images,
fucking Karl, and new rules that didn't used to exist.
Thumbnails for images. Anyway, should we talk about him?
Yeah.
So, Victorian, he comes with Relentless. This is a standard thing for nearly all 3-point attachments now. They're coming with something really good. And boy, is this good. Thoughts?
Relentless seems best in ranged units, and they don't have a ranged unit, which is like obviously exploiting this. That's what is so scary about the crossbows with the captain. But just... I think it makes Ironmakers at 10 points really, really scary, and Reapers at 9 points. I think it makes them really, really scary. An activation is, an action that can pass for 3 points is a great option. Does it balance against 4-point NCUs? NCUs is sort of limited in what action you can take. The attachment itself has a chance to die. There are loads of things. Whether or not 3 points is the right place for it, I'm not sure. But people seem to be taking it. Like nearly every Greyjoy list that I've seen built and shown to me has Victorian, is either the commander or he's in a unit. Like, so maybe he's too powerful just because he seems an obvious choice. But we'll see where they end up. I think that he's going to be very popular.
He is. Though obviously with attachments, things like Karl and stuff like that, I can see him being a bit of an issue potentially, but he's still very, very good. This is the problem. Like the 1-point and 2-point attachments are targets for being killed. These have got massive targets on their heads for being killed, but you don't mind because you can leverage their ability outside of later turns in earlier turns. That's actually understanding like. Get the drop on your enemy because you've got more activations, therefore you're less likely to have him just assassinated and killed off because you were the one with the drop, not your enemy. And it snowballs. It's a snowball effect. There's a reason these relentless abilities are better than a 2-point attachment that brings something it could be an incredible 2-point attachment. If it doesn't bring an activation, it's inherently weaker.
Yeah.
Charles also noticed that I forgot to mention the 1-point version of Asher, and this one I do apologize, just missed this one. So let's get her
Get together,
sorted.
Mickey. Come on now.
I know, right?
Next thing you'll be telling me that you coded Victorian at one point.
Damn, did I? No. 1-point Asher, so there's not much to say there, she's just 1 point. And she comes with Inspiring Presence, the morale stat becomes 5. Notice not Rally Point. She does not offer the protection bubble, it's just her unit. And comes with Warcry, which is basically one of her cards. She just gets on an order. Yeah. Which in some ways is better, actually. So, unit takes a morale test. On a success, one enemy long range becomes panicked and vulnerable. Fine. Absolutely fine.
Pretty nutty combo, actually, for 1 point. Like, the Inspiring Presence, considering most Greyjoys are sitting at 7 morale. She's great value, like...
Do you know what we used... Do you remember a long time ago, in the wilds of 2020, there was a 1-point attachment called the Red Priestess, who would make you do a morale check, and okay, if you failed, you got to take a wound to re-roll it, but it made the enemy both panicked and vulnerable. And she was too strong. So they nerfed her. Now, admittedly, the combination with
that was when you attack.
Yes.
Right? That just wasn't whenever you wanted.
This is really good. This is really good. I don't think it's insane. I don't think it's like off the curve insane, but it is Red Priestess from 2020 before they changed.
If she wasn't being compared to other pretty high level 1-pointers, she would be off the curve.
Yeah.
Only attachment ever fielded, but she's being compared against a really competitive attachment field. Victorian's great at 3, Newt's great at 1, Karl's great at 1. I don't like him at 2, but sure, take him at 2 if you want. She's possibly the best 1 point, but yeah, maybe they all have places, they all have uses, and that's really good. That when I go to look at Greyjoys and I go to build lists, I want to put characters in, and that's the first time that's ever happened. Like normally it's fill it with units. Do I have a point left to squeeze something in? But this is no, I want to field this character in this unit, and therefore I just consider it a more expensive unit. I don't want to field it without it.
What I do like about this particular theme that we've seen from the 1-point attachments, actually, is that even the Warsworn as a 1-point attachment is good. I'll be brutally honest, when I saw all the Free Folk 1-point attachments in the reveal, I straight up just wasn't impressed. None of them give me something that I'm like, that's really good, I want that in units. They just didn't feel good. These attachments all feel really good for a point. And you look at them, and if you've got a point left over in your list building, you're not like, damn, I've got a point left over, I'll take a more expensive unit. You're like, oh cool, what flavour of attachment do I want to fill in with the list I've already got to further push it into the list direction that I want to try and go down? And I think that, as you say, I think is really good. I actually, in terms of internal balance and where Greyjoys are, I think it's really good. Do I think they're competitively really strong? No, I don't think they are. But I think they're really good, lovely internal balance, and that is something that, again, I will point out that they have nailed in this update. Is internal the relative strength of things in a faction is very good. The internal balance is very good. I don't think the same could be true of external balance.
Yeah, I still think that some factions are just stronger than others.
Yeah. If internal
the internal balance is so good, that's across the board now. Like everything is better than the other one's version of it. It's not like, oh, they have this one standout unit which they're gonna spam. It's just like this faction is just better than this faction.
And actually, if people say, oh yeah, but there's stuff we haven't seen, again, I'll reiterate the point. If internal balance is very good, which it looks like it is, it looks like internal balance has been nailed, right? Congrats for that. If internal balance is really good, then the stuff we haven't seen will stay with that same internal balance level. Which means all the stuff we've seen will continue what we've seen. It won't completely change and flip everything on its head. Yeah. If you're worse than another faction, you will stay worse than the other faction. Which is a positive, but also it's a negative as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want single standout units. You want good internal balance, but we need external balance too. Otherwise, we have big issues. But yeah, Greyjoys as a whole package, I'm impressed with. More impressed with than when I saw half of them. They're the first time I've seen any follow through on this idea that attachments will be good now. Zero follow through on this concept that the game's not going to be a 3 NCU game anymore. I think Greyjoys are very, very heavily into 3 NCUs, in my opinion, both in terms of their tactics deck, what they want to field and control, the strength of the NCU fieldings that they have, and the way that they seem really intrinsic to your strategy. It's not just like, oh, well, buy another attack, buy another activation, please. No, it's you seem to be bringing abilities which are really core to the way you're going to play the game. So you're going to want 3 of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a problem, but I think it's still very much in this idea of you think you're changing the game, but you're not really.
Yeah.
If you think you are, then you're not understanding why people are doing it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Now we get to move on to, finally, after my fake introduction, to the news segment. And yesterday night, I think it was, these randomly appeared on the Discord
What are they,
server.
Mickey?
These are Lannister Red Cloaks for 6 points. Let's have a just look at the models again.
What are they, Mickey?
So, there's a story here, and we are going to go into the story in the news segment because it gets really complicated and it gets really dark very fucking quickly. So, Lannister Red Cloaks. Just accept them for what they are. People have been saying like Roman legionaries in medieval gear. Some people say they look like lightsabers, like Jedi. Carlo, you're a Lannister player. How erect was your penis when you saw these?
So when I first saw them, I was like, oh my God, they are amazing. The more I look at them, the more I'm a bit like, okay, maybe, like I'm not as sold. But yeah, like when I first saw them, I was like, holy shit. They look good. I think maybe just I don't like the second guy in. He's got a weird pose. Him I don't like. I don't like his cloak. It's too big. Everybody else, absolutely beautiful.
He has the second guy has a sentinel problem where he looks like he's in a really windy day, and the rest of the Baratheon army's just like not.
Yeah, he's too dynamic. He's trying to be too dynamic in a unit, which would have looked really cool if they were just a bit more stationary.
Yeah.
But top unit, especially by comparison to Lannister standards, who are a bit old and a bit dated in some places.
Yeah. No, I really like them, and I do like the aesthetic. I don't think the aesthetic is necessarily fully Game of Thrones. I do think there's like an element of Romanness there. It's something I said, but actually they just look. I'd gladly have the guy on the far end, the guy at the end by me, this guy, with the guy like the pose and the what do you call it now, the sword straight towards your opponent. I think that's just a sick pose.
It is.
I can't remember.
Is it?
I can't remember.
Claymore? I don't know.
But that pose
somebody
that he's pulling is just great. And it's just a really lovely aesthetic. I love it. I really love it. But I said it was going to get dark, and Urson in chat was like, "Oh, this is going to be good," because it gets worse. We see the card. We knew it was 6 points, and look at the card artwork, by the way, also sick.
Yeah.
We've seen the abilities. Now, this is not a great photo. This is the photo we've seen so far. There probably are better ones that I just haven't tried to work out. Why people don't use actual photos, like cam scan for lovely things of these, beyond me. But stat line: 5 move for a Lannister. That's actually good. 3+ to hit on a 6-point unit. 754, which has become a very standard stat line we've seen from a lot of attacks. 4 armor, 6 morale. This is all looking good, right?
Yeah. That's a solid 6-point unit.
That's a solid 6-point unit. Then we have Fearless Avarice. If you control bags, this unit suffers -1 wound from failed panic tests. Well, that's okay. That's completely fine. A kicker effect.
Let's just stop there.
Yeah.
I don't think that unit changes the game, but I think it's good at 6 points.
Yeah, I think that's okay 6-point unit. I don't think it's incredible.
Those stats in Lannisters easily comparable to Mountain's Men, and yeah,
it's different.
And
It's
then,
definitely a different take.
And then, what? What?
I can't even understand this. I do not understand why this is a thing. Now, of course, this could change. This could change. This might not be the 2021 variant that we expect to see in 2021 balance. This could have been balanced for 1.6 and was released for 1.6 balance. But the more I look at that and say, well, that's bollocks, because if you're giving me a 754 stat line at 3+, for a 6-point unit in 1.6 balance, it would never have seen play because Mountain's Men exist. Lannister Justice and the way that they've got these kind of kicker effects from what we see Lannister now, this makes sense to be 2021 balance.
Yeah.
And this ability is fucking stupid. Right?
It's insane.
While you control crowns. So we're going to come back to that while you control crowns. But we'll look at the rest of the ability and evaluate the rest. Each time this unit performs an action, before resolving that action, one enemy in long range suffers a panic test with -1 to roll for each remaining rank in the Red Cloak.
-3. Start of the game, -3.
I'm just going to go cry.
Every time you take an action. Every time.
I can't even...
Can we have a moment of silence for the charge, which is 2 actions? The surge forth, which is another action if you go and kill your opponent. So I'll charge you. You'll take a -3 test. I'll attack you. That's an action. Take a -3 test. I just attacked you, so take a morale test. I've got 7 3+ test, 7 hitting on 3s. You're gonna take a wound, right? Take another test. That's not even the good test. Now you're probably gonna die from that combo of things. I'm gonna surge forth, and somebody else within long range can take a test. It's ludicrous. Whoever made this doesn't understand that you can't just give damage for free on top when you make actions. Like, I cannot comprehend who made this and thought it fits in at like a medium points value level.
This is Mammoth. This is the Lannister Mammoth. And we all know how good Mammoth design is. E.g., shite. Really bad for balance. Terrible.
Yeah.
If your morale 7 or 8, this unit can just solo fuck you. Like, it just solo fucks you.
Yeah, but Mickey, I just take crowns, right? I just take crowns.
Doesn't matter. You can't stop this ability because Joffrey exists.
Joffrey and Joffrey +1's it now.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, and by the way, just a quick reminder, in case you haven't seen the Lannister deck, go and double check the 2021 Lannister deck. But remember all those cards, which are like, oh yeah, you know when enemies taking panic tests, it increases the damage or doubles down on it, and this, that, and the other. Oh, I don't know. Like,
this is... I'm sorry, but it's fucking ludicrous. Like,
Bartender.
What?
Bartender's got it in chat, right? Bartender has literally nailed this in chat. You place first activation of a turn if orders to destroy still exist for Mountain, which, by the way, we've seen sudden charge still exists for Starks, but it's been limited to one zone, right? Joffrey on swords, which probably will give a replace via assault orders a charge. That will create 2 tests. You get D3+1 on each fail because it's Joffrey. After wounding, you'll do another D3+1 test. Then, if you overrun, into another test for a 3rd panic test, and you haven't even activated. You took swords to do a free charge and 3 panic tests at -3. This is literally better than claiming the crowns. Like, what? I Why on earth would you not take Joffrey when this is an available option? And doubling down on that, why on earth would you ever fucking claim crowns? Just claim horses. You get a better version of the fucking crown zone. I'm baffled. I'm literally baffled that they can
Mickey,
make
it's
this
all right.
exist.
It's all right. It's all right. This is a beta test version of this unit. It doesn't actually exist in the world, though, right?
Correct. This is the beta test. As far as we're aware, this is the beta test version of the thing. It does not exist in the what? Lannister Red Cloaks?
Oh wait, no.
It exists.
That unit you've never heard of is getting given away at a tournament. They
This
can't
got
do
dark.
right for doing wrong.
No, they can't. They actually can't. Like, I'm actually very frustrated here and genuinely angry because we've all seen. If anyone hasn't seen on the main Discord, we've all seen Lannister Red Cloaks on the order forms, right? Lannister Red Cloaks was something that was been talked about as, oh, the Red Cloaks, they're an interesting thing that was talked about. It was the same kind of time that the Mormont she-bears were also kind of like banded around. The Frozen Shore Chariot was banded around a little bit. I can't remember anything more off the top of my head. But this unit quite literally exists. It's right here. It's literally in. This is the tournament support for the massive Spanish event that we've talked about before. I mean, I'm not going to complain about the Spaniards, by the way, guys. The Spanish are running a great event, and the fact that Simon are giving them prize support is fantastic at all. But I mean, this unit doesn't exist. I cannot even pre-order this. This does not exist in any way, shape, or form from any public available information through Simon. You have to go through private store order forms.
To people.
And they're already giving it to people.
This isn't a leak, guys. They gave it to somebody on purpose. Or at least you think on purpose, unless somebody accidentally dropped it in the box. What I really, really don't get, what really frustrates me about this, it is not like, oh no, they're getting this like thing that's not quite out yet. Greyjoys just 100% got added to the app. Greyjoys are about to be released. Give them Greyjoy stuff. Give them Greyjoys to give away like 1 month before Greyjoys come out, 2 weeks before Greyjoys come out. People want Greyjoy stuff. And instead, you're giving them a unit nobody's ever heard of. And nobody else is going to be able to get hold of it for months and months and months. That is just shooting it. Like, I know you're trying to support a tournament, but they literally can't do anything right at the moment. Like, how is that good for the community? How is that good for anybody? For one person in the world to have been given something, literally, I cannot believe that unit comes out in the next 6 months. And I also cannot believe that it has those rules when it actually comes out. So why have you just shared with the world that that's what you thought it was going to be at some point? Because they're bonkers rules.
I'm beyond belief because, again, I'm not going to complain at the guys getting the support. You know, the guys deserve the support for running a massive tournament, running a massive event, doing really well in this time of year situation that we're in. But like, it just baffles me that there is a unit that quite literally doesn't even exist in any. I mean, Simon have never officially said anything about this, ever. Said anything about this to anybody aside from it appearing on an order form. It's not even been in a Simon leak event. They didn't even show us renders of these guys. You know, we saw.
They just had a thingy at the weekend.
Literally WonderCon. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a second.
They could have showed these off if they knew. Basically, the only thing I can possibly think is that Simon, literally, they're not talking to each other. Somebody somewhere has no idea that these aren't released. Has no idea. Someone in prize support or in a warehouse or something has no concept that people don't know that this unit exists. And they've just gone, yeah, give them one of them. Now, we've had them here for weeks. They've been here for months. They must be out, right?
I will say one thing. I do think that some kind of like, you know, saying that knowing about things way before in advance, it leaves nothing to the imagination, nothing to surprise. There is no new releases anymore because everything gets spoiled forever, right? That's not just true of Simon. That's just true of many other games. You know about it as soon as it's public information. There you go. It's public. I think the big problem here is that this really shows that they don't know what the audience wants, which is just give us information when it's okay to give us the information. If it's not okay to give us it, then don't give us it. That's fine. But if you're gonna openly say that this is a thing that you're willing to accept, people. I mean, is he allowed to? Genuine question at this point. Is the guy who wins these even allowed to play them?
Yeah.
Because it's not in public release.
Why? Yeah. You've been given a unit. Like you didn't get it at some back channel out of the factory thing. You got given it by Simon. Fight me. If I win that box and I turn up to my next tournament and you say I can't use it, literally fight me because I'm using it. It's Simon official stuff. I've got a card. It says 2021 on it. I'm using it. Do you know what I mean?
Got it from Simon. That's the thing. You literally got it from Simon.
Exactly.
It's different if it's exclusive. And I know that they did it with, is it Baratheon starters or Targ starters, where they gave away a limited number at an event or something like that. That was different because there was a known release date that, yes, there was problems with it, there was issues with it, but it was a known event where you knew going into it that that's what they'd be giving away, right? This is just completely out of the blue. And it's shock to everybody, I think, and a lot of people. This is actually one of the few times that I've seen everybody on the main Discord united in their kind of like anger, but not anger. Again, not anger at the tournament organizers and the guys over in Spain. They're angry at the fact that Simon haven't even acknowledged that this exists, right?
Yeah.
I believe this is the way that Michael Chanel would see this, right? This doesn't exist because we've never announced it, which, by the way, is the whole argument he had for Night's Watch Hero Box 2. It can't be late because we never announced it. Even though they showed physical models and literally had names on those things in a cabinet at an event. The Red Cloaks don't exist, guys. I don't know what anyone's getting crazy about. They literally don't exist because they've never been announced. Using the exact same argument. And I can't blame Michael.
I'm a Lannister player and I'm so pissed off. I'm pissed off that they're so obviously overpowered. I don't want to field them because they're so obviously broken. I'm pissed off that you haven't announced them, but they're out and somebody has them. I'm pissed off on so many levels, and they've fucked it up on so many levels. Like they're so broken. They so shouldn't ever have shown that card to people that they thought that could be acceptable, while also showing people that Joffrey exists. There's like this tiny little possibility that if you don't know Joffrey exists, you think, yeah, well, crown taking is like a hard counter to it. But yeah, and yeah, like people in the chat say, like, and yet you're not that surprised from Simon. You're not surprised, are you? Because I haven't seen them do anything right in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, no, and that's the problem. And I think that they were trying to do something right, as you said earlier. I actually don't even think that this isn't even like one. This could be one little cock up somewhere, but this has got to be a series of cock ups. And actually, someone said something very interesting, which I do completely agree with. What the fuck is the Simon marketing account for? What is the Simon account for on Facebook?
Yeah.
What's the website for? Because it's fucking shit at what it's supposed to do.
Advertise Kickstarters.
Because they can't advertise that these things are even out or like coming out soon. You know, even if they just put a render of the model on the thing and say, look, these are things that are going to be coming, and people go, oh, what's that? You know, that's marketing. You know, but we didn't even know these things are even anywhere close to being released. It baffles my brain. Honestly, like,
Greyjoy looks so good, and then that was just such a cock up. Such a cock up of the weekend. I cannot believe it.
But it's a long running thing. We saw it with Mammoths and Dragons, right? We saw the monumental cock up in terms of balance, but more importantly, with the guys over at Creative Wargaming making the video, and they made the video for it and they released it, and then they were told, oh no, wait, don't do that, and the reveals that you've got from these boxes that we gave you, don't show those. And yeah, I don't know what to say anymore about it, because it's not. I'm not going to put this down to Michael and Fabio necessarily, but CMON as a company, CMON as a system, is just not doing its job. It's as simple as that. It's not doing its job. So we'll see. And of course, that does lead us quite nicely into the other bit of news that was the game update on Saturday at WonderCon. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in this because this was a Q&A. It wasn't an update. It was a Q&A.
Yeah.
It was a Q&A about the game update.
And yeah, it calls itself an update.
Calls itself a game update, and it just wasn't. They weren't updating us on the game. They were answering questions. Is that their fault? No, it's not. Certainly, it's not Michael's and Fabio's fault at all. This is just down to very poor naming of what it's supposed to be. It's just very poor marketing, ultimately. Which is again something that, when at this point, no surprise about. But yeah, it was okay. There was a couple of things I liked.
I watched like a bit in the middle. I was downstairs when it started. I came upstairs. It was a Q&A. It was the same questions that I'd seen a million times. I turned it off. I watched the last bit as well. Honestly, though, like, I asked loads of people, did I miss anything? And everybody was just like, no, same questions as always, same answers as always. Nothing got said that you wouldn't already know about.
Do you know what I did appreciate? Although I'm a bit fed up with the constant hot pie crap. Yeah, okay, it was a meme. It's like an April Fool's one year. Fine, great, whatever. It was funny. We just move on from that now. Like, it's just old. It's not actually that an interesting thing to people to bring up. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I also really like the fact that Michael, and I respect him for this. I think he's fed up of being asked about giant NCUs, because the guy was just like, no, it's not. If he wasn't in a better mood, and I think if he was not on stream, his answer would have literally been, it's not fucking happening, shut up. That was basically my short translation of what he said. Yeah. I'm glad about that, because I'm fed up with that question as well. Like, just leave it.
The thing is that they keep saying, Michael keeps saying, oh, we always get asked the same questions. That's because they don't answer any questions except those questions. The community asks other questions, and like literally right at the start, they're like, we won't answer any questions on all these topics that you care about. So, and everyone's just like, okay, giant NCU? Because he's like, what else have we got to ask?
I will say they cleared up a couple of things. We'll go through those in a second, but I don't think it's appropriate for us to be asking release dates and schedules of releases and things like that, and distribution of these guys, because these guys don't actually know about that, right? They'll know about it through the grapevine from the other departments. They'll know that there's been issues, but they can't address those issues, right? That's not their job ultimately. So I understand that side of it, but if you know that they have to say, don't ask us distribution questions, fucking stick us someone from distribution in front of us.
Yeah. If you know that that's the questions the community are asking, then that's the person that should be in front of the camera.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I want to hear from Michael and Fabio. I kind of do, right? It's interesting to hear their deeper insights. For me, deep, I don't like the hot take stuff. I really like their deep insights into why they think what they've done is right, this, that, and the other. But that is not the forum for it. This is just hot take Q&A things, and that's fine. There were some things he did clear up. So taunt affecting cavalry. Michael said it does affect cavalry. That's literally what he said, because the wording has changed on taunt, so it's supposed to affect cavalry. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't. Like, the rules don't say that. It says this is when it happens when the unit activates. It doesn't say the only action they can take this turn is a charge, or immediately before. I mean, why don't they just change the trigger? Just make it when a unit is selected to be activated. That was what Tyrion's old card did, right? Just make it that one, because that's before it activates. Done. Simple. But he did say it's supposed to be before the cavalry movement. Fine, great. We've got an FAQ. We've literally got a rules. a rules question that was answered live on stream, because I think he knows that that's a question that's come up in terms of balance. But yeah, other stuff that came up, they freely admitted that they're updating cards, and I asked them this question actually. Wasn't the only question that was asked, of course. Many other questions were asked, but I asked them a direct question of being like, is the stuff we see in the visions spoilers final or not? Now, I actually know the answer to that question before I even asked it, but I asked that question because I wanted to hear it from them, and they said no, basically. So they said no, but let's take us back to the Q&A where they asked us what faction we wanted to be seen. Now, I couldn't find the actual video. I didn't look particularly hard, admittedly, but I couldn't find the video, that Q&A. But I seem to remember them saying something along the lines of, we can't change them too late because they go to the printers and other things. So most of the stuff you see now is final version. Then 6, 7, 2 months later, is the stuff we've seen in the Visions final versions then? No, basically not. Anything is still subject to change.
I don't believe that 2021 has gone to the printers. I'm sorry, I just don't. I still think that they're changing balance right now.
Yes, I believe that, 100%. And I believe that some of that balance has been changed because of community reaction. Why would you change that free folk
and can we just say we're 1 week away from quarter 2?
Yep. I don't know. I don't know, but I feel like they're not going to hit that deadline. I don't feel they're going to hit the mark, which is the 2021 update. But thank fuck, they did say they'd release everything on War Council at that time. He didn't actually say the exact words, but they said they would do a digital release if the physical stuff wasn't ready. He didn't say if the physical stuff wasn't ready, but that's exactly what he said with the words he said.
We can at least presumably hope that if it's released somewhere in the world, even if it hasn't reached Europe, say, or hasn't reached America, if it's released in one, then it will be on War Council for everybody.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, that's fine. If that's the way they're going to do, that's what they're going to do. That's not an issue for me. At least digital release digital. So yeah, that was about it. They talked about free folk cars changing, among other things. They talked about, like, I want to address this, but I'm not going to make it a point to talk about too much. But they talked about how the articles take a while to get sorted and people using old images. Now, I can believe that people were using old images. I can genuinely believe that, because I can believe that old assets were being used because the assets, because they're not communicated properly. They don't use a collaborative workspace. They upload them here, and then when they need to get marketed, they send them to the marketing team, rather than the marketing team just access what is in the file. I don't believe that for a second, that any of the stuff we've seen in spoilers was updated before those spoilers, because those articles took a week to write. How do we know that? Well, they wrote the Baratheon one in a week.
Yeah.
Because we asked them to. They take a week to write. They're doing these at most. Those
when
cards
I heard,
are a week out of date.
I did distinctly hear the line, like the things you saw, they might not be final because those articles take, like, they were made ages ago. They were made like months ago. I was just like, no, they fucking weren't. Like, what a random crap lie. Like, what a crap lie to try and get out of the fact that the cards are changing. You know, you're just, oh, no. You're seeing cards from like months and months ago in playtesting. All right, well, maybe,
yeah,
but that's not because the article took you ages to write.
No. It's because you haven't, the marketing team or whatever hasn't got the updated assets.
Yeah.
You know, and when they say old assets, they could mean like 3 days old. But because it's had an update, that's fair enough. If it's receiving quick updates, you see, I'd rather just admit that they're still doing changes. I wouldn't even be bothered if they just said that. It's not telling the truth. Classic.
Yeah.
Telling the truth. And I'd just rather transparency. Just be transparent. People appreciate it when you're transparent, even if it's horrible.
I didn't care for it. Didn't like it. Didn't learn anything significantly new. There's an FAQ answer, which is great. But I hate it. I hate it if that's considered an FAQ. Also, that if if I didn't watch that, how am I supposed to know that taunt does that? What if I know that and then I go to play a tournament or something like that, and I say to my opponent, "Oh no, taunt works on cavalry," and my opponent says, "No, it doesn't," and then I say, "Oh no, Michael said it in a video once." What do I do? What do I do with that information? If I can't pull it up in a written document, then it's not really an FAQ. So I really, really hope that they don't think that it is.
In other related news, Stannis has actually asked me, so shout out to big man Stannis of the Humble Onions. He did me he wants us to do him a solid and compare the fact that Red Cloaks were designed at the same time as King's Men. I don't think we need to compare that.
Balance,
but balanced.
Fair.
All things are balanced. Anyway,
yeah.
We'll move on. And we'll go to another piece of news. Now, I don't really have anything to show you for this piece of news. Just more Red Cloaks. But I thought best time as any to talk about this. And Carlo, you don't know what this is because there's no images. But as soon as I say one word, you'll know exactly what we're going to talk about. And that is the Guild. And hence the change to the video. Basically... Exclusive. This is genuinely news to a lot of people out there. The Guild, the great work that we did with the Guild, it still exists. But it's effectively on hiatus. Where there's been some, not issues, I wouldn't call them issues really, but through various other problems, Yannick, for example, great guy over Tabletop War. Yeah?
I think it's very representative of how people feel about A Song of Ice and Fire. Which is that there are some people continuing to do it, and they have to focus on the few things that are still good. And tons of people have left the game. Tons. Roughly speaking, I would say that the Guild is half as active as it was just 3 months ago. I would say it produces half as much. The collective of those set of people produce half as much content. Some of them have completely left the game. Some of them just don't produce much content. Some of them don't do whatever. And so the amount of space for us to have energy and enthusiasm to do collaborative projects, big projects, have big things to talk about on top of trying to maintain our own content, our own channels, just isn't there. It's not non-existent. Nobody wants to push the Guild forward because there's nothing to push the game into at the moment. And I think that's the epidemic that's sweeping across the player base.
So there you go. There's completely fresh, new, completely hot off the press news there. That doesn't mean the Guild is going to cease to exist. The Guild is on hiatus. It may return once we believe that it's the right time to bring it back. That doesn't mean any of the content creators are necessarily going to stop. The guys over at Tabletop Warden still doing a great job with a load of their stuff. Predominantly in German, of course, but still doing loads of stuff. And Bartender, of course, doing loads of stuff for
Sunday
that.
Slaughter is still obviously very active. They're doing great stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Really building his own stuff. Small Council Radio is still around, but
War Games ID. Van and the guys over there. Anything but Ones has even been relatively quiet the last couple of weeks. People have got their own lives, and things are coming out of lockdown, and it's trying to balance those post-lockdown lives with the Guild was getting too difficult, and that's as simple as it was. That doesn't mean it won't be back. That doesn't mean we won't. We'll still communicate. We're still friends within the Guild, but unfortunately, the Guild itself will not be producing any content, and that means we needed a new video because the old one was a Guild video. So should we just run the video again for people who didn't see it earlier?
Come on then, yeah. I mean, you did put some effort. 2 weeks.
People will get it. I didn't care. I just like the music and also the hilarious meme we have in the hand. I realise that we're talking over really loud music. Also, that image is great. Anyway. There you go. That's the awesome new the video. I'll run it again at the end because I think it's hilarious. I will be taking pictures from anyone for some bad image editing for random faces that we can pull to mix it up every week. So if anyone does want to send across a hilarious thing that they want us to do, I'll be free to make a quick edit.
And just as an aside, that is a real climb. I mean, it's not exactly real, but that is the real climb of Mother of Dragons. Mother of Dragons is, or at least last time I checked, is now the #1 rated commander in the entire game.
Indeed.
Ever since Mother of Dragons won the first of the best of 3 in the final of the World Cup, she became #1 rated.
Which is a good time as any to start talking about tournaments. Is
Yeah.
it not? So, first of all, as requested by Elite Teddy, I've got to talk about the Grand Tournament, which also features in the video, if anyone does see the subliminal messaging. The Grand Tournament, obviously running in 25th, 26th of September in the UK. Reminder, if you sign up and buy your tickets in the next 2 days, so that's before the end of March, so you've got today, tomorrow, and Wednesday to do this, you are in with the shot of winning a Greyjoy starter. From Simon.
Directly.
Boom. Done.
We have an email. It's promised to us.
Exactly. We got it in writing. The other thing, of course, is the World Cup. We saw Deoxys versus Tobbo Mott in round 1 of the final best of 3. Tobbo Mott won the game in Here We Stand against Deoxys. Interesting game. Deoxys rolled a lot of 1s for charges, among other things. But we'll see how the next 2 pan out. They are going to be played this week, I believe. This week and next week, I believe. We'll try and make sure streams are available. I think Van streamed the first one. So go check out Van's Wargames ID on Twitch to see that. Or on YouTube, I think he uploaded it. We also saw Larks and Winter is Coming play off for 3rd place. Where Winter is Coming, I believe, used Free Folk superiority to crush Larks out of Here We Stand. If I remember rightly.
I think it was quite a one-sided game in the end.
Yeah. Congratulations to Tom for securing 3rd, and commiserations to Larks as well. Okay, other tournaments where we did have the Indie event running over the weekend, and after a couple of errors and a couple of other things, this, that, and the other, the event was eventually populated on stats. I don't think it's got all lists. I think it's got most lists. So we see there's only 2 players without lists. We see everyone win. Brett won again with his Night's Watch. Not a surprise to anybody. He wins every tournament in that area. So that's no surprise to anybody whatsoever. And yeah, fine event. Stats-wise, it was just above average, but basically all of the players had never used stats before. 43%.
That's a lot of Starks.
Yeah, classic. And Night's Watch obviously is winning, had the highest win rate. There's only 2 Night's Watch players. Stark had an abysmal 33% win rate.
Rough.
Real rough. Down where with Baratheons as well.
Not a good selection of factions though. Like that's a bad state of times when, you know, there's nearly half the competition is one faction, and then you got a huge chunk of Baratheons, and then like you don't even there's no Lannisters, not a single Lannister entry. Like
1 free folk. No Targs.
Yeah.
No obviously no Greyjoy. 1 neutral.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed because Brett was going to play Free Folk and he pussied out and played Night's Watch. I'm literally, because I literally sat in him and like theory crafted his lists with him as well. And I'm really disappointed he didn't run them. But yeah, I mean, it's not the wheel that we're used to. It's certainly not the wheel we're used to. It's not the faction breakdown that we're used to. So it's probably not a surprise whatsoever that a good player running a slightly off meta list won. And when I say off meta, they're meta lists for Night's Watch. They're just not meta because they're not Stark or Free Folk or Other Dragons. So yeah, I think, you know, it's not a surprise that Night's Watch won. It's not a surprise that Starks didn't do so well, perhaps, given the field. So yeah, there you go. That was the 14-man event there, Depticon. Not much really to say about that other than that. Then there was the second tournament, which was the second day, where they play 8 players, but unfortunately the information wasn't uploaded. They could change lists and things like that. We'll see if that gets updated. I'm sure Brett's got everything he needs to get that sorted, or he just hasn't had the time. Your life was threatened, Brett. So yeah, that's all there is to say about that, really. Spanish event we talked about. The Bash event has now ended, I think.
Yeah.
12 players there. You lost.
I lost
lose.
Elite Teddy. Everybody's seen the video. I fucked it up.
We talked about it last week, but I just wanted to rub that in. So, Elite Teddy, congratulations on your win. I don't think there's any. He's literally game over. Elite Teddy wins. Elite Teddy is the best player in the UK. Get fucked, Carlo. I didn't enter for a reason because I don't need to beat Elite Teddy to show you how good I am. So yeah, that's obviously a great event. But again, another small event, only 12 players. And I think that's basically it tournament-wise. We see BrizCon happening in late April, a couple of weeks' time. Gavis Haven's running a 30-point tournament, which is great. I love tournaments running even just 30-pointers. Don't know how many people are up there at the moment. Just Bob. He's got Tim Fox and Dave as well. Some players there. I'm sure that will populate in time. Ring the Bells. Is this
Ring the Bells is the
is
the tournament by Rotterdam White Scars, and they're looking for more players. So if you're looking to play on TTS, they created a tournament just for their own local players, but then quite a lot of players came to them and said that they wanted to join, so they created a tournament for people. They're still looking for more signups. So there's quite a strong field at the moment, quite a strong international field of players who are quite regulars on the TTS scene. So really get in there. Ring the Bells specifically said that they're looking for more players. Sign up. I don't know when it exactly ends, but if you refresh the site, you actually just reminded me that if you refresh the site, you'll see a banner for what the tournament looks like. I only just remembered to put that on literally right now.
I'll be super honest. I loaded all the up lists. Wow, that's big. Make a better site, Carlo. Anyway, definitely shout out to Tyson and the guys at Rotterdam Right Scars. They've obviously been doing a lot of stuff. They do a lot of painting tutorials and things and battle reports. But I think more recently they've been a bit more in tune with the TTS scene and things like that. And they're really nice guys. I know they watch the shows before. So shout out to those guys. Give them some love. Because their battle reports are great, and to be honest, they're really great guys. They just seem really nice. They're the kind of guys that I'd love to go down like the club and play against in local tournaments and things like that myself. So shout out to them and go and give their YouTube channel some love. It's got some great content actually.
What about the faction masters? How many are they all full now? Well, not all. Obviously, some got cancelled because Starks and Free Folk people just didn't want to play anymore. Like, interesting, like. You'd be surprised,
people are just fed up as Starks and Free Folks. The Free Folk actually, they always have low numbers anyway, Free Folk, and the people who entered were all like myself, Weasel, I think Leica joined as well. The people who say like classic Free Folk players, people who love Free Folk, and I think we were all just willing to just do a 3-man tournament, a little round robin. But alas, there's not enough players to really justify running a tournament, so we didn't. Tournaments are going ahead though is Targaryens. We've also got Lannisters, we've got Baratheons, and we've got Night's Watch. Those are the 4 that summoned enough players. There was a late resurgence for neutrals. Had a couple more players interested in it. They thought they might get up to 5 or 6. But Deoxys was like, we're not getting to 8. It's probably not worth running it at less than that. So we'll probably leave it there. So let's have a look at the Targaryens. So we see 8 players in there, and look at those names. Khal Drogo, the guy from Wargames ID that loves his reason he's called Khal Drogo. He loves his Targaryen, so it's great to see him on the scene. Lublak, who's been in loads of stuff, enters loads of things at the moment. I think it's really good. Zero Talk, decent player, took MOD to the Masters, not the final, of the World Cup. Myself, I went in for Targaryen. I'm not running double Drogo, by the way. I've just double ticked Drogo for now because I don't want to show people my lists. Torbo Mott, obviously of World Cup Finals fame and of Masters. Bruce, big man Craig Noreg in chat, obviously here today. Big man Bruce, who doesn't love a bit of Bruce. Dark Angel 88 as well from Australia, good to see him there. And Goss Bob Bernard.
The OG Targaryen, Bob Bernard.
There's some proper OGs there. I mean, even Khal Drogo, he has been about, like, he's a big Targ proponent. Bob Bernard is like the Targ proponent on TTS. Bruce has been like trying to champion Targs for ages and was super hyped when Dragons came out. Dark Angel plays everything. Australian, they play everything. Tobo's been a Targaryen player for a while. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking to play Targ on Targ because I'm looking forward to playing games which are not 10 activations aside.
I've just noticed something because I was just looking through some of the entry stats, and obviously the wheels are all 100% a single color. Obviously,
yes, obviously.
right? I hope Spleen didn't sign up for the wrong tournament because he's currently in the Baratheon tournament as a Targaryen.
Yeah, he is. I think he did that for me. From my understanding, he did that just because he had to click like to sign up. I don't think he is actually playing that. So that takes us over to the Lannisters, and the Lannisters. Carlo, you end up getting persuaded to run Lannisters. So obviously you're there.
Yeah.
Rossi.
Thought about Nightwatch for quite a while, but
Rossi running Lannisters as well. Leet Teddy, well, we know about him. Macarius Vex from Off the Wall Brawlers, running Lannisters. I think he played Lannisters in the TSL, so good to see him back. Wop, I can never pronounce his name right, even though I've literally played against him and patron. Well, not patron, but he talks loads of stuff with us. But he's back in there as the Lannister. Bloodraven. That Bloodraven guy. He's never on anything here. I don't think he's very good anyway.
him I'm nervous about.
I'm sorry, Bloodraven. I apologise. I shouldn't say you're not very good. You're probably the best. You're probably one of the best player there, I think. Furioku, who I've never seen play Lannister, is playing Lannister, which is hilarious. And we see Gamma as well. Gamma obviously very famously took down Larks in the first round of TSL with Lannisters. He loves playing Lannisters, so it's really good to see him back as well. Full of names I recognise. There's not a single person there I don't know. There's not a single person there I don't think I've talked to. And I think it's going to be a really good tournament. I think the Lannister tournament is just going to be good, right?
Stacked, right? Stacked entry, yeah?
I don't even know if everyone's good in that. I don't even know if everyone there is a very good Lannister player. That's the thing. I just think it's going to be a good tournament because everyone there is a name that has backing towards it. That's all that matters. I've never seen Rossi play Lannister.
It's not the highest rated tournament.
It's not, is it? We keep going.
No.
We see Baratheon. We see Bolton Skincare straight away in Bolton Skincare, very high rated. Victoria the Valiant, yeah, obviously Vicky, very, very massive proponent of Baratheons. We see Stannis, big man Stannis, coming back for his TTS debut back into 2021 with a bit more 1.6 Baratheons because he loves the mirrors. I can reveal to you all now, he's running Mother of Dragons twice for his Baratheon lists. No. We see Spleen, obviously very good player. Crag, he's great player as well. Ardeep, where would a Baratheon tournament be without Ardeep? And Mr. Ray. I believe they're missing a player. There is an 8th player signed up, I believe.
Okay.
But I don't know who it is. The officers will probably check that one out. But I think there are 8 players actually in.
As things stand, I can't imagine that there's another person of this level, so its average rating will drop a little bit. But as things stand, the average player level for the Baratheon event is basically equivalent to the World Cup and the Masters. It's like 1650.
You look at it, Bolton Skincare, very good player.
Yeah.
Was in the Masters. No, he wasn't in the Masters, was he? Was he in the Masters?
He made finals of the World Cup.
Made finals of the World Cup.
Didn't make it into the Masters, I don't think.
Stannis, Masters player. Spleen, Masters player. Crag, was he a Masters or not?
Masters player.
Masters.
Yeah.
Ardeep, World Cup finalist. That leaves literally Vicky and Ray. And Vicky, we saw Vicky do very well in the European regionals.
Close to making the World Cup finals.
Certainly not a bad player, and certainly a Baratheon stalwart. I've seen the pictures of her army. She's got a lovely painted Baratheon army, by the way. She even did a Queen's Guard for Loras, you know. Crazy. I mean Queen's Guard, King's Guard, I don't know. She's got a whole, like, the coloured cloaks of the Loras made herself. Incredible. Anyway, Mr. Ray, who I don't know that well, but I know he's been quite active a lot on more Discords and recently, so yeah, I mean, I reckon it's going to be a great tournament. Again, I'm going to look forward to that. Baratheon mirrors are fun. I know who's missing from that list and will be replaced because I don't know if he actually had to drop out. But George. George was in there originally as the 8th player. He may have had to drop out because he just got a new job. So
I play Lannisters, I play Night's Watch, I play Baratheons. They're the 3 things that I would say I play. The Baratheon mirror didn't excite me. I'm not saying it's not a good tactical game. It's just not exciting. I think we'll see a ton of Courtney, and basically some counter picks that think that they can beat Courtney, and that's all I think we'll see.
I think you're going to see some people mixing it up. I think there's going to be some spicy stuff. I think just to throw an element of spice in there, rather than just going solidless, because that's actually what it's about. Because understanding the mirror is very different. Add spice, and people don't tech for spice. Anyway, that moves us on to the Night's Watch list, and we see good old Claw representing his home country again. Mahoney's Law, from Steadfast. No, sorry, Mahoney's Slaw. Mahoney Slaw. Coleslaw. No, Jonathan, the obviously great addition there as well. Scadman, yes, Scadman. He's been playing Night's Watch loads recently. It's great to see him in another tournament. Jon Snow Groupie, that guy. Winter is Coming, Tom, going back to more kind of like traditional Night's Watch roots for him. Trading away from neutrals, of course. Going back to that. Mongoose, Griffin, and Ariakas. Ariakas stepping his feet out the Stark Pond into Night's Watch. Again, really good players, names I've heard of, but I'm really glad to see them all playing tournaments, even if it's not massive tournaments, just tournaments.
Yeah.
Which we can keep doing to keep 1.6 alive before 2021 comes out.
Absolutely. This is the tournament that I'm most interested to see what lists people come up with. Yep. This is the one that I think is wide open. This is the one that has the most interesting mirrors in my mind. This one has the highest level of risk to reward for unit selection, for making attacks, for which tactics cards matter at which time. For God, there's so much play in Night's Watch. I find them so interesting from design, and I almost, abandon Lannisters just to come and play Night's Watch, even though I don't consider myself really a Night's Watch player. I just think that this tournament will be super, super exciting to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Completely. I'm looking forward to all of them too. Even if I just watch the game back, I'm expecting Discord streams. I'm expecting just like chill chat and talk about stuff. Ariakas does have Night's Watch painted IRL. That doesn't surprise me. Man knows where power is. 2021 Night's Watch. Anyway, so yeah,
I heard he started painting them the minute he saw the spoilers.
Yeah, finished already. So yeah, I look forward to those faction masters. Obviously, we'll bring you more details with that as they develop. But with that, I think the Battle of White Harbour, is this the...
So this is the Rotterdam White Scars event that is for only the local players.
Local players, that's it. Yeah. That's the local one. They've got another one for the international. Yep. Awesome. I think that pretty much brings it to an end of all the stuff we've talked about. Covered everything. We'll go back into the GT, make sure people are aware of the GT. Go and sign up your stuff. Daryl and Chris did another stream over on the NRG Twitch channel last Thursday, going through accommodation and in traditional Chris Eustace boring tactics. He gave everyone a PowerPoint to read. That's your homework before September. No. What are you doing for accommodation, Carlo, by the way?
I think I'm still going backwards and forwards. What I really want is for loads of people to be in the cabin on site, 2-minute walk from the venue, big old hangout thing. That's what I'm still pushing for, and I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna go with we are staying in the on-site cabins, which look pretty, like absolutely adequate for the weekend and good, and plenty of good facilities. And more importantly, like if it's good stuff and there's loads of people around, then it would just be the really, really good place to be for a really good atmosphere for the whole weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna enjoy it, and yeah, we'll have to sort that out because if things go to plan, I might be checking you down there, as we know. So it makes sense to stay in the same place. You going to say something?
No, I was just reading. Incredible. Well, Bartender says that he's working on new streaming options, so
he is. Bartender,
looking forward to them.
Here's a good one for you, Bartender. Are you all right me showing that on stream that you sent me yesterday?
You got about 2 seconds to say no. If you don't.
Basically. Because I am literally opening the image there. He didn't say no. There you go. This is something Bartender's been working on. No promises with it, but it's something I chatted to him about, something that I've talked about on stream with a couple of people, things like that. Obviously, I'm doing none of the work, so I'm not going to take any of the credit whatsoever. But for when you're doing
you came up with that idea. Remember when you stitched together 1 million maps and it was absolutely the crappiest idea you've ever done? Yeah,
But it was
yeah.
trying to achieve this.
I'm glad bartenders implemented it in what looks to be a real and usable way.
Yeah. So we're gonna have units. We're gonna have units with attachments, logos above. So when you're streaming from above, you can actually see what the units are. Makes it so much easier.
Oh, that's great.
And I
Yeah.
think he's got up to 2 attachments possible. It is possible to run 3 attachments in a unit, but his argument is the logos become too small, and actually it doesn't really add any benefit.
No.
So we're going to have that coming as well. He's still working on it. I'm not going to say it's going to be soon, but really do appreciate the work that Bartender's doing there. So thumbs up from me, mate. Spot on.
Absolutely.
Just fix
That
the
was
first
great.
player token, right? I bother him all the time with like, this is broken, or we need to work on this. I say we, proverbial
Yeah.
we. He does all of the work, and I just tell him to do things. Like I'm some kind of like team leader, but I'm not. I'm just literally 0p. I'm not important.
It's exactly the same as when we work on a Song of Ice and Fire stats.
I never refer to that as we. I say you do everything, and then I say we are a Song of Ice and Fire stats. It's great. All the credit, none of the work. Putting up with Carlo's work enough. Anyway,
Now, Mickey made that sweet intro. So there we go. He's done his work for the year.
Is that a year? Yeah, cool. No. Obviously, anything else, guys, you know where to find us. You know where we'll be. We'll be back again next week with what I assume will be some more visions. We will see. I don't know. So we'll see how that develops. We'll see how that goes.
Faction a week, right? Faction a week in War Council. Come on now.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? That would
7
actually
weeks.
be good. That would be
7
really
weeks. That should be about the time when the whole thing's supposed to be out digitally.
Yep.
Please?
I hope so.
Please? Just to, make up for the Red Guard fuck up? Please?
Anyway, guys, I appreciate you all joining us here today. Thanks a lot for coming down for another Tourney Ground. We'll catch you this time next week. Remember, we are on daylight saving times now, so it's GMT +1 technically. So better time for some of you guys out there. With that being said, sign up to the GT if you've got the opportunity to before Wednesday to get your shown in with a Baratheon starter box. And we will catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys.